First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now for this Monday. We do appreciate you all joining in wherever it is. Thanks. Of course, we're on the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel. We're at kptv.com under the Fox 12 Now tab or those Fox 12 Oregon apps, all great places. And every weekday between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., we are here covering a wide range of topics. Today, we're talking about something that probably could affect you in your town. Pretty much every town, community, city in the state of Oregon probably has something that's historic about it or something that needs to be preserved. And we're going to be talking about preserving those as part of a plan from the Oregon State Parks Department. And joining us right now, we've got Ian Johnson from the State Historic Preservation Office to walk through this with us. And Ian, really appreciate your time for joining us here. And obviously this is an important thing both for people who are living in these communities and for residents of the state, and tourism, but also just preserving this history, part of these historic places that are part of the state of Oregon. And to start off, though, could you maybe just tell us a little bit about your department and how this fits in the grand scheme of things?
Sure. So the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office is part of the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and within that, we're part of the Heritage Division. The SHPO specifically administers the federal historic preservation programs. Includes the National Register of Historic Places, historic surveyed inventory, federal tax credits, and whatnot. We really help people, help communities identify their historic resources, get them designated in the National Register, and then get resources to them to help preserve them through our grants. We're also part of the Heritage Division that includes our Historic Cemetery Program, the Oregon Heritage Commission that offers services to archives and historical societies and that. And the plan that we've written really kind of integrates the efforts of both of those. So the plan is required by the National Park Service for our federal pass-through grants, but we take it a step further in Oregon to really try to integrate both the federal programs with the state programs, because a lot of our folks that we serve, like museums and archives or traditional preservation organizations, use many of our services, and it really shouldn't matter to them what side of the house they're talking to. We really want to offer kind of integrated wraparound services. And so the plan talks about how we do that, who we serve, how we serve them. But it's also a kind of a call for the entire, what we call the heritage community. It includes all those organizations I talked about, the archives, the historical societies, the traditional preservation organizations, the experts in the various fields. What can we all do together to help enhance our historic places, our historic traditions, our beliefs, our collections, and other kinds of things, which are really important to people. People feel passionately about them.
Absolutely. I mean, it comes down there to, there's a few different things that you touched on there that I want to, I guess one is, it sounds like what you're trying to do is help people who are seeking some of those funds and working to help preserve their things, filter through maybe a lot of that paperwork or not understanding who to apply to, where those funds come from, and giving them essentially a source to go to of experts to help them understand that. Is that correct?
Well, the plan is a little bit different than that. The plan talks about how, what we call the heritage community, that big group of folks, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it over the next 10-year period. Kind of the mechanics of what you're talking about is like the next cut down. It's the how. And if someone would go to our website, www.oregonheritage.org, you can look up all sorts of information about every one of our programs, including those grant cycles and how to apply. A lot of the plan speaks to that larger coordination among this heritage community, all these different organizations, how we work together to deliver those services. How you access those services, you're going to go to your individual organizations, your local historical society, your local museum, maybe your city landmarks commission, depending on what you're asking for. You might come to us if you want to be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. If you want to apply for our Preserving Oregon grant, which rehabilitates historic buildings, or do you want to apply for an Oregon Cemetery grant or something similar? So that's, so the plan is kind of the organizing framework for how we deliver all those services the next level down.
Gotcha. And for all those local organizations and local communities and different ones that you were mentioning there's a lot of them. How do you go about encouraging them working together and encouraging them to help preserve some of these places and even discover some of the places maybe that do need to be preserved?
Sure, we're pretty intentional about that. So, and the plan talks about really doubling down on a lot of our previous efforts and sharpening them. So we offer the Oregon Heritage Commission offers the Oregon Heritage Summit, which is coming up this next year. It's topic-based, and we invite organizations to come up and be part of that. You can sign up on our website. We also have a conference on the off years. We met last year in April in Forest Grove, and it really brings together all these organizations to talk about topics and do training, and to facilitate networks. We offer a lot of online training. We do a lot of site visits. The photos you're showing now show some of those site visits we do for consultation. So we really are very thoughtful about that. We also produce a lot of online content and resources that folks can download. That's a lot on our outreach or the heritage side of things. On the SHPO side, we offer a lot of those trainings and put in a lot of effort into content that we put up on the website. But also we're at those conferences as well, providing our type of information. Really trying to create those venues and locations where people can network and collaborate, where they can get information. A lot of it's about connections between those organizations. They kind of know their own business best. So how can we get museums together, or maybe a museum and a cemetery organization, or a traditional landmarks commission to work with those organizations? Because a lot of this work, whether you decide what's important or how to preserve it, is going to be local work. We can provide technical assistance, we can provide information, we can provide funding, but what gets preserved and how it's preserved and the stories that are told about it, that's all really locally generated. So our role is, and the role of the larger partners, is to support that work so that local folks can make their own decisions about what they want to do.
Just to speak to that just a little bit more and reiterate that, because I think that is an important thing. Like, how important is it for these local organizations and communities and people who know what's historical in their area and know some of those stories to be communicating with you and organizing that to make sure that those things are preserved?
Sure. I mean, it's not required or critical. There's no law that would compel folks to come speak to us for the great majority of our programs, with the only exception being some of the federal and state cultural compliance laws. But for what we're talking about, these supportive services, we would love people to come talk to us and get those resources so we can assist them to do their work. They can access our website, and a lot of times folks will come to us in one context or with one set of questions, and we are able to tell them about other programs they may be eligible for, might help support their efforts if they're willing to chat with us. And we have, for instance, we have the Oregon Main Street program, which helps communities leverage their unique identity to enhance their downtowns and advertise it. We also have the National Register of Historic Places, and we have museum grants. You could have a museum organization in a downtown that's participating in Main Street that also has a local landmarks commission that gets a museum grant. There's multiple cross connections there and things that they may not be aware of, their community may not be aware of, and we might be able to say, what are you trying to do? Oh, we're trying to, put on this exhibit or show. Well, here's resources that are available for you that you can leverage and have. And do you happen to know so-and-so? Because we do, and you can chat with them. We also have a program called Mentor Corps, which pairs more experienced individuals and institutions with organizations that need technical assistance. So let's say you are trying to put on that museum exhibit, but maybe your small organization doesn't have the expertise or knowledge. You get a museum grant to get the materials you would need to archive that collection, the proper folders, the proper boxes, the information, and maybe we pair you with a mentor that's going to come in and show you, okay, this is how you organize that material, this is how you store it to preserve it to last the duration, right? Because there's a special way of doing that, or things tend to deteriorate over time. So that's kind of the wraparound services that we provide. And the plan really talks about that framework. It talks about who's in that community of people that are assisting, who that heritage community is. It talks about how we relate with each other, how we relate to the public, and how we emphasize a lot of our programs. I mean, we're a state agency, so a lot of our work is driven by outside factors, right? People come in and they make a request, and we do that. But to the degree that we have choice and we can focus resources, how do we intentionally approach that? Where do we intentionally put our resources when we do have some discretion to go ahead and do that?
I like that. So sounds like a lot of avenues, a lot of ways that they can get involved and help to make sure, again, going back to those local communities, the people who know that area the best, know what they're trying to do, know what that needs to be preserved, but teaming it up with experts to help them too is even part of that. I mean, that's all great. Well, what's the response been like so far, generally speaking, when you're talking about this and getting the word about it?
Generally, people are very excited. The big request we always get when we do outreach for this plan or any other time is, can we have more of everything? More. Do you have more grant opportunities, more technical assistance? Can you visit on site? And we try to do as much as we can. Like any state agency, though, we do have a certain amount of funds. And so what's been nice about the post-COVID environment, people are more used to video conferencing and short videos and other kinds of things allow us to kind of reach out. But generally, folks come to us like with under one program and then discover all the other things that they can do. A lot of it depends on the community, what they make sense for them. Not all of our programs make sense for every single community, or it might make sense at a later time. We do try to coach communities on those, ask them first, what are you trying to do? Or organizations, what are you trying to do? Okay, within that, your logical step would be this, and then just make them aware of other things. It doesn't help them or help us to talk people into taking advantage of a program they may not be ready for. It's about, again, going back to that local connection. What are you and your community ready for? What's your interest? Okay, how can we support that for you? But generally, once folks get involved with our programs, they seem to, access them frequently.
And again, I like that idea too of you coaching them through that and understanding like, well, maybe you need to do this first. This can probably help you out, and then we can get you to this level or this level. So for for people out there in these areas who maybe are working on something like that right now, they're working on preserving something, what is the first step for them to do to get involved?
Well, I think, a lot of it depends on what they're working on. The big thing that I always emphasize is start early. We are a state agency, so we don't move quick, right? So if you're looking for grants, be thinking about that right now. Even if it's 2 to 3 years down the road, it's going to take time for you to develop your grant application, including the justification for it. If you want to get signed up for that Mentor Corps program that offers that technical assistance to small organizations, be thinking ahead, because, those processes take time. And unfortunately, due to limited resources, sometimes they're competitive. So, making sure you're thinking ahead. We can coach you through some of the pre-steps, if you're making applications, what type of information you need to gather, how you need to present it to make your best possible case. Things you can be doing in the meantime, how you might build community support, build community partners. For instance, a lot of our grant applications, they're stronger if you say, hey, the local hardware store said that they would donate materials to us. Or they might send a few folks out to swing a hammer for us, and give us some assistance. So we can, if you've got some ideas, even if they're just starting ideas, connecting with us early so that we're able to say, okay, if that's where you want to go, here are the steps you start needing to take. It's very difficult for us to help folks if they say, hey, this building or this thing is threatened today. What can you do today? That's really hard for us to respond to. So we really emphasize what we just call preservation planning, which is exactly what it sounds. Think ahead, identify your historic places, your historic archives, your collections, your other kinds of things for what you want to do, because those kinds of things are very rarely lost in a catastrophic event. How they get lost is neglect over time. We let the building roof fail a little at a time, and then all of a sudden it's rotted from the inside out and it can't be saved. We don't put those collections in the right archival boxes and they just, the papers just deteriorate and go to nothing. We allow the weeds to overtake the historic cemetery, and eventually the tree roots start toppling the stones. It's very rare that those things disappear in one catastrophic event. It happens slowly over time. And so I think with any type of thing you're talking about preservation, it's about what do we know is important, how do we figure out what's important, and how do we move ahead proactively to go ahead and do that. We have a lot of properties, and museums and whatnot that have multi-year efforts where they apply for grants over many years, and they take the first step and then the second step, and they just work on it over time. I'm sure a lot of your viewers, if they were to poke around their community, they could find lots of these organizations that are making incremental improvements. And of course, that's what we do in our own home too, right? I've been working on a home improvement project, and it's just a little bit at a time, right? You don't usually have the money and resources to do it all at once, and that's especially true of public resources.
And that being proactive, not reactive when it comes to preserving some of those things. Well, Ian, really appreciate your time here joining us just to talk about all this and get this information out there. And obviously, this is a very long-term thing that people will be working to preserve these different areas in their communities, but having the support there and this plan laid out, and for everyone out there, if they want to take a look at this or just to understand more about some of the opportunities or even what your organization does there within the state of Oregon, what's the best place for them to go?
Our website, we have the plan posted on our website. It talks about who we are as an organization, what we do, and how we do it, as well as our goals for the next 10 years through 2033.
Fantastic. Ian, thank you so much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
All right, thank you very much.
And for everybody who's watching, again, we are live here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we are every weekday, starting around 1 p.m., going throughout the afternoon. We have a lot of different segments that we do, different interviews, different informative things like this, where we can let you know about what's happening. Or sometimes, we'll have a reporter on and do a deeper dive on a story that you've seen somewhere else. A lot of options. You can always send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. We've got more coming up this afternoon, so whatever platform you're on, you can come right back here. You'll get a notification that says, hey, we're live. If there's breaking news, this is also the place where we'll be anytime between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. outside of our other newscasts. So always remember that. Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, kptv.com, or the Fox 12 Now tab, or those Fox 12 Oregon apps. All great places, and that's on whatever platform you are on. So thanks for joining us. We'll take a break. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.